Welcome to the Dream Nation Breakfast Club. I am your host, Josh Valentine, and the Dream Nation Breakfast Club is brought to you by the Journey Podcast, where you can tune in, listen to tons of phenomenal guests, and get all kinds of content that's centered around personal development, life coaching, and so much more. Every single week, we have something different with the Breakfast Club, and we gather together every Tuesday from 7 a.m. to about 9 a.m. typically is the very latest, but you guys are more than welcome to join us in our community every single Tuesday. Happy to be here with you all as always. I actually just got back from a trip to Europe. My wife and I, we went to Portugal and Spain, and it was an absolutely phenomenal time. And I thought it would be appropriate to have today's Breakfast Club be all about how travel can enhance you, not only your life, not only your relationships, but also your health and just your overall quality of life in general. And I know that you guys are going to get a lot of value from today. Whether you travel or you don't travel, or you like to travel or you don't, I know that you guys will get a lot of value for so many different reasons. I'm going to give you different perspectives on just how travel has enhanced my personal life. Many of you know that I know a thing or two about the world, about just the world and traveling. And on Instagram, I'm the world traveler. So I've traveled over the years to all of the inhabited continents, all of the wonders of the world. And I absolutely love travel. I've also been in the travel business for many, many years and have helped tons of people travel over the years. So let us know where in the world you are tuning in from. And if you're watching the replay, drop an R. If you're with us right now, let us know what city you are tuning in from. I know we typically have people who tune in from all parts of the world. And for those of you who typically jump on the Breakfast Club every single Tuesday, sorry, but last Tuesday I had to take the Tuesday off. It's very rare that I take Breakfast Club sessions off, but whenever I'm traveling and I don't have the ability to do a live session, as you guys know, I was like 6 or 7 hours ahead of time, depending on if I was in Barcelona or Lisbon, which is where I stayed. But last week we didn't have the Breakfast Club. So super happy to be here, back with my family. And let's jump right into it, guys. So if you're new, by the way, welcome. Welcome to everybody who's tuning in for the very first time. Maybe you came across someone sharing this on their social media. Maybe someone tagged you. However you are welcomed. We're happy to have you with us. And let's jump right into it. So with that being said, if you're new, typically the first several minutes we're covering different things, life hacks, fun facts, sometimes just random personal development shares before we jump into the meat and potatoes of what it is that we're going to be sharing here today. And if you guys have any questions, you guys are more than welcome to drop your questions in the comment thread as well. And feel free to follow the Journey Podcast with Josh Valentine wherever podcasts are streamed. And you can tune in to tons of phenomenal guests on there that I've interviewed over the last several years. So let's jump into it. The very first share that we have is, this is from the book Giant Steps, one of my favorite books because it has daily nuggets. This is what it looks like. It's by Anthony Robbins. As you can see, I wore mine out. This was actually gifted to me by my mom many, many years ago, but Tony has been a great mentor of mine for many years. I've learned a lot from him. And this book specifically is very unique. A lot of people don't know about this one personally, but every single day is a piece of wisdom, a piece of personal development that you can take away with you. So here we go. What makes you different from all the other people on this planet? One very important source of your uniqueness is your experiences. Everything you've ever done is recorded not only in your conscious memory, but also in your nervous system. Everything you've ever seen, heard, touched, tasted, or smelled is tucked away in the giant file cabinet known as your brain. These conscious and unconscious memories are called references. These experiences are what we rely on for certainty about what to believe, including some of our most important beliefs about who we are and what we're capable of. So really, really great share. And I know for me, a lot of references have been super valuable, especially from a creative standpoint. With the work that I do here on the Breakfast Club, what I'm usually doing is just grabbing different references of things that I've learned over the years. So I was talking with one of my mentees yesterday, and I was just kind of going into a lot of the history and things that I've learned while I was out in Barcelona and Lisbon, and it gave me a completely different perspective on everything from colonization to how people just live their lives is very different compared to how we live our lives on this side of the pond in the United States, and so much more. So the more references you have from things that you experience around the world, the better, especially for those of you who teach, for those of you who mentor and lead people, or for those of you who are just creatives. The more references you have as a creative, it's always going to help because it allows you to kind of tap into this beautiful tapestry, if you will, of references and use those references for all kinds of creativity. I think it was Pablo Picasso, if I'm not mistaken. And while I was in Barcelona, they actually have a Pablo Picasso museum, and it's really, really great. He spent a lot of his early years out in Barcelona, and the interesting thing is he kind of built the foundation of his artistry in Barcelona. So they have a lot of his work from his early years, tons of archives of his sketches and things like that. And one of my favorite quotes by Picasso is "Great artists steal." And what he means by that is typically the greatest artists in the world are getting references from other artists who come before them. And that's one of the best things that you can do as a creative is, of course, originality is important, but you want to kind of take a little bit of what you learned and then just add your own style to it. So as a creative, it does help to have many different references. Okay, next year. What experiences have most profoundly shaped your life? Prior to attending one of my seminars, participants asked to complete an in-depth questionnaire in which they list the 5 experiences they believe have most powerfully shaped their lives. What's fascinating is that there are many people who had the same experiences, references, but interpreted them in radically different ways. Thus, their lives are different today. 2 men lose their parents at a young age. One uses this experience as the result to shut down emotionally from all intimate contact, while the other becomes one of the most outgoing and sensitive people you could possibly meet. It's not only the references of our lives that shape us, but again, the meaning we attach to them. Super, super important. Now, last share I have from the book is you are the master designer of your life. Whether you've realized it or not, think of all the experiences as a huge tapestry that can be laid out in whatever pattern you wish. Each day you add a thread to the weaving. Do you craft a curtain to hide behind, or do you fashion a magic carpet that will carry you to unequaled heights? Do you consciously rework the design so that the memories that empower you are the centerpiece of your master work? So the interesting thing about just perspective and the meaning that you attach to things, there's a really good book by Viktor Frankl called A Man's Search for Meaning. And Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, and he has this therapy. He was a psychologist during that time, and he has a therapy known as logotherapy. And it pretty much has people extract meaning out of their suffering. And what he had mentioned was he observed that during his time in the concentration camps, and if I'm not mistaken, he may have spent time in Auschwitz, which is out in Poland. I actually got to visit there when I studied abroad many, many years ago. And I definitely would recommend taking a visit, for those of you who are into world history, and it'll change your life. It's a super powerful experience. And one of the things that he spoke about was the people that survived the Holocaust, many of them had some deeper meaning to kind of get them through those very difficult times, to get them through the deep suffering that they encountered. And he kind of developed this therapy, if you will, as a psychologist that helps people on their healing journey by extracting the meaning. And that's one of my biggest mottos is never let a good suffering go to waste. No matter what it is that you're going through, always extract the treasure in that trash. Always find a way to get some kind of inspiring message out of the mess that you're going through. And if you approach life in this way, there's nothing that you can't overcome. So next share is from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There's some really cool flashcards. This was actually one of the very first books that I read in personal development. Really, really amazing book. And I definitely recommend checking it out by Stephen Covey, of course. And let's share this next one. Sharpen your mind. Choose one way to build your mental capacity this week. Keep a journal, read a classic, develop a hobby. Ask yourself, do I begin the week mentally refreshed? As soon as we leave school, many of us let our minds atrophy, but learning is vital to mental renewal. And here's a really great quote by Stephen Covey. There's no better way to inform and expand your mind on a regular basis than to get into the habit of reading good literature. So one of the things that I'm really excited about is actually to read some of the literature from many of the writers in Spain and Portugal. So in the US, we typically read from writers that are American. It's very rare that people in the US are reading from writers that are not American, right? Like Tolstoy or Dostoevsky and all of these phenomenal writers. And there's some amazing, amazing literature on the other side of the pond that I would definitely recommend looking into. But I'm really excited because the Spanish and the Portuguese have some phenomenal writers and poets. And one of the best things that you can do to expand your intellect is definitely, again, getting more references. Sometimes it's not just travel or like physical experiences. Sometimes it's just reading different literature and tapping into different perspectives, and even novels. Like you'll learn a lot from a novel just by going into the mind of the author and finding more information on the world that other people live in. And it's just very different when you travel. You start to see that a lot of people live in very different ways. And that's what I love about it the most. So let's jump into it. We have a lot of exciting content around travel, and I'm really excited. Maybe my goal for today is to perhaps inspire some of you guys to travel, or to convince you on why travel can possibly be the greatest investment you'll ever make in your life. So just to share a little bit before I jump into the content here, just to share a little bit more on my personal journey with travel. So when I was about 17 years old, I went off to college. I went off to college when I was 17, and I was the first person in my family to go off to college. And I left the hood. I'm from East New York, Brooklyn. So I grew up, very difficult upbringing. And I was really, really determined to get out of the hood, and also not only get up out the hood, but travel the world, see different parts of the world, and experience more than just my neighborhood. Because when I grew up, a lot of the guys that I grew up with, they never left the block. Like it's very common in New York, for those of you who know New Yorkers, it's very common for someone, for example, who lives in Brooklyn to never have ever gone to the Bronx, right? Just a couple of miles away, but have never been to the Bronx. Crazy. Or have never been to Staten Island. And it's very common for a lot of people to just never leave the block because everything is already there, everything that you need. So yeah, and I didn't want to fall into that category of people who just they don't leave the block. I wanted to see different parts of the world, different cultures and everything like that. And I've always had this adventurous spirit. So when I was 17, I got my first passport, went off to college. I started cutting hair just to kind of help myself get through college. I ran a barbershop out of my dorm room. So I've cut a lot of, guys on campus. They'd come to my dorm room, get a haircut, and that's how I paid my way through college. And many of you know that I'm also a sailor. So I've worked on the water for many years. And as a sailor, I would travel around the world. Part of my requirement with the Coast Guard was to sail around the world and get sea time. So I traveled on a training ship where I also cut hair with these guys. I lived in a 150 man hold, meaning there were about 150 other dudes. I think about 159 to be exact. And we had these bunk beds, but the bunk beds were like three beds, right? And I had the middle bunk. So I had a guy sleeping on top of me, a guy sleeping below me. And I would cut hair to all these guys that were in that hold before we would go off to the port. And that's one of the ways that I, again, funded my travels in the early years. And then I studied abroad in countries like Turkey, Greece, Romania, Poland. And that was a phenomenal experience just traveling. So that kind of opened up my world to travel. And some of the first trips that I took, I remember domestically, I had some friends from Oregon who I worked with. So when I left the hood, I never went back. So even during the summertime, I'd get a job like on campus, and I'd work with these, these international exchange students. I'd work with students from different parts of the world, and I had some friends from Oregon, and Oregon was one of like the first places I traveled to domestically, and that was a phenomenal experience. And for those of you who've never been to Oregon, I think that Oregon is highly underrated. A lot of people don't, know about Oregon, and just a phenomenal place. Eugene, Oregon. I went to like Tillamook, Oregon, all kinds of parts of Oregon. Amazing place. Silver Falls. And that was one of the places that I traveled to domestically. Then my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife, Kia, she's from the Bahamas. So that was like one of the first trips that I took internationally was to the Bahamas. And it's not very far, right? A couple miles off of Florida. But it introduced me to just different ways of living that I was just witnessing firsthand. And then from there, traveling on the training ship. By the time I finished college, I had already been to over 10 countries. And after that, I was working as a maritime captain, piloting cargo all around the United States. And with that work rotation, the way it works is you typically go away for weeks at a time. If you're on a big ship and you work internationally, you're probably going away for months at a time. I know guys who've gone away for up to a year out at sea. But for me, I'd go out for a couple of weeks and then come back home for about a week to maybe 3 weeks. And during that time off, I travel and I'd go see different places. And then that led to me getting into the travel industry and, the travel business specifically. And during that time, I had the great privilege of helping a company, become the #1 travel community in the world with over 7 million members worldwide. I was an international marketing director for that company and got to do some incredible things, built a multi-million-dollar business with that, helped that company get to $1 billion a year, but most importantly, helped a lot of people travel all over the world. And personally myself, during my 20s, this was the time where, I was super adamant about traveling to all the wonders of the world, all of the inhabited continents, doing tons of philanthropy as well, like building schools in third world countries. And the travel, one thing that I can say is that it has enriched my life beyond anything that I could possibly imagine or compare it to. And it has brought so much joy. And I always say that travel is the gift that keeps on giving. Travel is a classroom without walls. And one of the best things that you can do, even for your children, for those of you who have children, is travel with them. One thing that I know for certain, many of you know, I've been an entrepreneur, I've been an investor for many years. And one thing that I know for certain, when it comes to just travel in general, you will never regret the money you spend on travel, ever, 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 ever. And you may go broke traveling. You may wipe out your entire 401k traveling, but I can assure you that when it's all said and done, you will not regret it. And it is the gift that keeps on giving. Why do I say that? Because travel not only enriches your life before the trip, because what happens is when you have a trip coming up, for most people, they're super excited about that trip. They're anticipating, they're counting down the days, they're prepping, they're getting in shape, all of this stuff. So you have the gift of that, the anticipation and excitement that comes before the trip. Then you have the actual trip and being in a new environment. There's just something about being in a new environment. And as you guys oftentimes hear me say, that the brain loves novelty. So it loves new things. It loves it gets stimulated when it experiences all of this variety. So being in a city and seeing things for the very first time, it just does something to you. And it's just very exciting to be in that space. And it's cool because while Kia and I were out in Barcelona, and Barcelona, by the way, guys, if you've never, Barcelona and Lisbon. So I went to both cities, and if you've never been, I would put it at the top of your bucket list, 100%. I would even put it in the top 10 of places to visit. Barcelona, specifically, I love Lisbon too. Lisbon was an incredible time, a lot of walking up hills. So make sure you go to Lisbon in shape. Do not go to Lisbon out of shape because you will have a very difficult time unless you just Uber everywhere. But in Barcelona, by far, one of my most favorite cities that I've ever been to. I would live in Barcelona. Like I'd go as far as to say that. And I absolutely loved it. And just being out there and seeing new things and seeing the architecture and the beauty behind it and just people watching, right? I'm that guy that could sit in a cafe and just people watch all day. And it's just fascinating. It's fascinating and it's exciting. And then what happens is once you finish the trip. So yesterday, after leaving the Iberian Peninsula, because Portugal and Spain, they're side by side on the Iberian Peninsula. You also have Basque, which is between Spain and France. A lot of people don't know that, but Spain and France pretty much share a border. And there are parts of Spain that are on the Atlantic, parts of Spain that are on the Mediterranean side. And then, of course, Portugal is on the Atlantic side. But all in all, what happens is after you finish the trip, then you have the reward, the gift of just reflecting back on the experiences. You have the gratitude, you have the joy of it. You get to post on your social media and you have the significance from that. And you immerse yourself sometimes in the culture. So now I'm like looking up a lot of music from Portugal. Portugal has fado music, which is amazing. Like I went to a restaurant and this restaurant is a very famous restaurant and a very intimate restaurant where super, super small and you share a table. They force you to sit next to random strangers at the dinner table, which is amazing. And then they had this fado performance with the singer and the guys who play the instruments, and you're there in this tight setting. And for those of you who follow my social media, you'll probably see little clips from it. But remarkable experience, beautiful music, and now I'm like immersing myself in the music from these countries, and that's what happens all the time. Like you go to these places and you learn so much, you gain a different perspective about your life, and it really transforms you as a person. I always say that travel is all about, traveling around the world and to come to the realization that you're just traveling back home to yourself. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you're traveling back home to knowing yourself, connecting with yourself, learning different aspects of yourself. And I had I had shared this on social media that I actually went to Spain and Portugal specifically because many of my ancestors are from there. So a couple of months ago, I was in Africa, and I had traced my ancestry, and about 30% of my bloodline is from scattered all throughout the African continent, specifically the west of Africa. So I did some travel with my family out to Africa, and then my wife is from the Bahamas as well, so we share a lot of ancestry in that sense. So it was important for our kids to kind of learn a little bit more about the worlds that their ancestors came from. But Portugal and Spain also, a significant portion of my bloodline comes from the Iberian Peninsula. So it was important for me to go out there and learn the cultures of my ancestors. And I would say that for those of you who love travel, go to the places that your ancestors are from, wherever they're from, and learn about it. And it's one of the best ways that you could just learn about yourself, and you'll feel oftentimes this beautiful connection to these places. And that's what I loved about it. And it's like very inspiring at the same time. If you need inspiration, if you've been encountering burnout, if you need to just shake things up a little bit, if you're long overdue for some change, go and take a sabbatical, travel if you have the ability to. And maybe you're on a tight budget. Listen, there's all kinds of creative ways. Where there's a will, there's a way. There's all kinds of creative ways to travel. If you go down the rabbit hole, you can find a lot of affordable ways to travel. And oftentimes what happens is if you go about it the right way and you plan enough, you can very well end up discovering a lot of ways to travel that's even more affordable than staying in your local city. Okay. And if you guys need the hookup on travel, by the way, hit me up. Shameless plug. Hit me up, send me a DM. I'll be more than happy to show you some of the ways that we go about travel. I can send you some information. So, with that being said, let's jump into some of the key points today. All right. So, first and foremost, travel boosts your mental and emotional health. How does it do it? Well, here are some of the key points to that. Perspective shift. Seeing new environments helps you gain clarity on your life and reduces anxiety caused by daily routines. So think about just life in America. As beautiful as this country is, as blessed as we are as a nation and as a people, the thing about it is very stressful for the average person living in America. In America, like, you're in this capitalism system, right? And I'm a huge proponent for capitalism. I'm a businessman, so I don't knock it, right? And it has liberated many people out of poverty. However, it comes with its challenges. It's very costly for a lot of people living in America, and for many people who migrate to the United States, if you talk to them and ask them, what do they miss about their country? Oftentimes they'll say things like they miss not having to work as much, because in America we work and it's a big part of our life. We work a lot to sustain these very livelihoods that we have out here. So it does help to just travel and break out of that for a while, right? Because it does cause a lot of anxiety, always stressing about bills, always stressing about work in general. So to be able to shake that up, and it's just so worth it. Secondly, stress reduction. So travel disrupts the cycle of burnout. Being in nature, on a beach, or even in a new city resets your nervous system. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, it most certainly did for me. Just walking around these cities. We did a lot of walking, by the way. Shout out to my wife. I don't know how in the world she managed to walk as much as she did, because when I tell you walk, like, we probably were averaging minimum 6 miles a day. Just walking. We took a lot of trains, a lot of buses, went to many beaches, and it was just really nice being out there. And when you go to these cities, for me, I don't like to stay boxed into a resort. I feel like it kind of robs you of the gift of learning about different cultures. So it is super helpful to walk around the city and immerse yourself in it. So I love walking. I already walk here in my neighborhood every single day for about 3 miles a day. So it wasn't really much of a challenge. In Lisbon, though, man, those hills are no joke. That's why I say make sure that if you're traveling to Lisbon, make sure you're in shape, because you're going to be walking up a lot of hills if you're in the main tourist area. Okay. Next, another key point is it breaks patterns. So travel helps you step away from bad habits and reevaluate your routines and goals from a fresh mindset. And I definitely can say the same. It's interesting because sometimes you think that you have your life all figured out, and then you go to a country and you're in that country and you start reevaluating your whole life, like all of your plans. Everything just changes all of a sudden. And that's the thing that travel will do to you, is it'll have you reevaluate your whole life. Like, man, maybe this thing that I thought I wanted, I actually don't. Maybe what I really want is to move to a foreign country for a couple of weeks and go off the grid, right? And I know that that's what happened to me being out in Barcelona. It just made me reevaluate my entire life. And I think that's the cool thing about it. And it's not to say, let me leave all of my responsibilities and all that stuff, but it is helpful to really discover what you truly want at the soul level. Okay. Next, we have inspiration and creativity. New experiences stimulate your brain. Many entrepreneurs and creatives get their best ideas while abroad. Now, I know for me traveling this past week, I was very inspired to do some writing. So I'm very, very excited for this next chapter of doing some writing. I'm actually planning on I'm planning on renewing my Coast Guard license, and in order to renew it, I need a certain amount of sea time. So while I go out to sea, at the end of the year, I'm considering it, but I have to serve about about a year out at sea every 5 years, so about a year in total. So I was going to take it as an opportunity to possibly just do some writing, and that's what travel has done for me. Like over the last week, like literally just going and saying, yeah, I think I'm ready to do some writing. And for those of you who are creatives, again, if you need some inspiration, go out and see somewhere new. Okay. Now, remember, a change in geography can lead to a change in psychology. So travel will rewire the very way that you think. Next, we have travel enhances your physical health. And boy, I can tell you, my feet, I don't know how I do it in sandals, because I do walk around a lot in sandals. And boy, I tell you, the physical health, like, I don't know why people wait to the very tail end of their lives. I mean, obviously, some people want to retire and they want to kind of like save up all their money. Listen, travel while you can. Don't wait till you get old. You're going to need your help, especially if you want to see a lot and do a lot. Okay, so here's some of the key points to that. Number one is increased activity. So whether you're walking through European cities, hiking trails, or swimming, travel naturally promotes movement. Most people are sitting down at a desk all day for hours upon hours, and it will take a toll on your body. One of the things that I noticed while traveling in Europe is that the people are a lot more fit than people in the United States. They're a lot more slim. It's you don't see as many obese people. Like when I got back to the US, one of the first things that I noticed was how many obese people there are in the United States. It's unfortunate. And one of the other reasons for that is because of processed foods, right? Americans eat a lot of processed foods, and we don't really move. Well, let me not say me, because I do move around a lot and I work out at least 4 times a week. But for the average American, that's not the case, right? They're driving around everywhere. When they go out and eat, many times it's just fast food, driving through a drive-through, and there's not enough movement. So that's one thing that travel does, is it kind of forces you to move around. Okay. Next up is better sleep. So many travelers report sleeping deeper while away from home, especially in peaceful or natural settings. And yeah, when you have no place to be in the morning, of course, you're naturally going to sleep better. When you don't have all the anxiety of what to do for the next day, you're naturally going to sleep better. So absolutely. Sunlight and fresh air. Exposure to the sunlight boosts vitamin D, as I oftentimes share here on the Breakfast Club, and it improves mood and immunity. So just being out in the sun, I don't know if y'all noticed, but I got me a little bit of a tan over this past week, but I was out in the sun a lot, and man, it was hot. But just being out and about while you're traveling definitely is really good overall, especially when it comes to just the sunlight. Improved eating habits. Now, this is not always the case, especially for those of y'all who like staying on a resort, or maybe you go on a cruise ship and you're just like eating nonstop. But if you're doing travel the right way, you can explore fresher, less processed foods depending on the region, leading to better digestion and nourishment, of course. So it does improve. Like if you're out there eating natural foods, I absolutely love the Mediterranean diet. I mean, just even food out in Lisbon. For those of you who've never ate, who've never eaten paella from Spain, it is amazing. Even the desserts out there were incredible. Lisbon has amazing seafood, just both Spain and Portugal, phenomenal food. So the good thing about it is it was also real food. It's not none of this processed stuff. So being able to actually eat natural food was really, really good. And it was great to kind of get a break from a lot of the processed foods that we eat in the US. You'd be amazed at how processed our food really is compared to other parts of the world. Okay. So travel can even motivate sometimes like healthier habits once you come back home. So if you want to get the most out of your travel, definitely make sure that like whatever lifestyle changes you made that were better, keep it going. Why not keep it going? I absolutely love this aspect of Spanish life, and even in Portugal is very similar. I believe they call it sobremesa, and the way sobremesa is like in Spain, a lot of people, compared to the U.S. In the U.S., typically, if you're eating with a group of friends and you're in a restaurant, that restaurant is trying to get you out of the restaurant as soon as possible so that they can put more butts in those seats. And there's this lifestyle of just eating and being done within an hour to 2 hours max. In Spain, completely different world. You actually will eat and then you spend hours just conversing with family and friends, just speaking to them and talking and sharing stories. And it's very common to spend over 4 hours at a dinner table, long after you've already eaten. And it's a part of the culture. And I just find that so incredible. And one of the things that I observed is when you look around, these people aren't on their phones while talking to family and friends. Like they're completely present, they're in the moment. No one has their phone out looking at social media while they're there. And I just found that so beautiful, like being out in a different country and seeing how present they are compared to just the everyday life in the United States. And, I'm not throwing shade at the US. I love the US. The US has built me to the man that I am today. But there are a lot of things that we need to change and improve as a country. And I think that adopting a more slower pace of life. And of course, there's parts of the US you can go to experience more of that. But if you go out to the other side of the pond in Europe, you'll see a lot more of that beautiful culture that embraces this idea of the sobremesa, where you can just sit down and just be with friends. And it's very common also in those parts of the world to eat late at night and be up to like midnight on a work night, right? Like next day you have work, but you're literally up eating late in the night, talking with friends, and such an incredible way of life. Okay. So next up we have travel deepens your relationships. So I had the opportunity to travel with Kia. Her and I haven't done a trip in a while with just us two. And when I say just us two, I'm not talking about without just our kids. I'm talking without our travel community, because oftentimes we travel with many family and friends, but this time it was just us. And it was kind of tough finding our bearings because it had been such a long time. But for those of you who are in a relationship, I would highly recommend traveling with your significant other, traveling with them, just you and them. There's something about having to depend on each other to figure things out, to navigate around the city and planning things out. And it's a very beautiful way to deepen the relationship. And even just with traveling with friends, like it doesn't have to be a significant other. It could just be a best friend. It could be a sibling. We had met this South Korean, it was a guy and a girl eating next to us at our hotel. And, I love Korean movies and shows. They're amazing. Koreans are very creative people, geniuses, with many things. And I love Korean culture as well. And we were talking to this guy and girl. We thought they were a couple, and it turns out they were brother and sister, and their mom and dad had actually paid for them to travel around the world together. And I just found that so incredible. And what is that going to do? It's going to deepen their relationship as siblings. Like they'll always remember those experiences. They'll always share that bond. And that's a beautiful thing. So travel definitely creates bonding experiences. Whether it's traveling with a spouse, family, or close friends, it creates core memories that build deeper emotional connections. Next up, better communication. So being outside of your routine means you rely more on each other, which improves listening and teamwork. So I know it's funny because Kia and I, we were kind of going back and forth. We were going at it initially because sometimes I don't have the best patience, and Kia has more of a slow pace island way of living, and I have a very New York, faster than a cocaine minute, right? I am super like in the moment, just going fast, go. and Kia's a lot more laid back, more on island time. So we do butt heads, and it took us a little while to catch our bearings, but after a while, we had to work together. We had to figure things out together, navigating through, especially the Lisbon streets. So it does help, create and build better communication overall. Next is also romantic reconnection. So couples often rediscover intimacy and laughter when they remove daily stressors and explore new places together. So again, to those of you looking to spice it up in your relationships, just go out and travel. I whenever I'm coaching and mentoring people who are new couples, I always say, do not marry that person until you travel with them, because you will learn a lot about someone just from traveling with them. And if you really, really want to know who you're marrying, travel with them. You'll find out real quick who you're marrying, right? And it's just an amazing way to build up that romance for those of you who've been, just struggling in that area. Okay. Next is meeting new people. So you gain friends across the globe. Exposure to other cultures teaches empathy and appreciation. So one of the amazing things is, while we were watching this Fado performance in this restaurant, we were forced to sit next to this couple. And this couple was actually from Switzerland, and we made new friends from Switzerland, and we learned a lot about Swiss culture. Like, do many of you know that in Switzerland, there's actually 3 different regions that speak 3 different languages? You have a German region, you have an Italian region, and you have a French region of Switzerland. So had no idea that was a thing. And many people migrate over to Switzerland for a better quality of life, and they have amazing quality of life out there. So it's very common to find people who live in Switzerland who their families are actually from other places. So the wife, her family's from Portugal, and they migrated over to Switzerland, but they live technically in both places. They vacation out in Portugal when they get the chance. So really amazing background and of this couple. And the husband was originally, his family from France. So again, you meet new friends and make new friends. And that's one of the beautiful aspects of travel. Like, now, whenever we're in Switzerland, we have new friends that we can reach out to, or whenever they're on, this side of the pond, they can reach out to us, and you can deepen those relationships. So that's what I love about it. Okay. Now, travel expands your perspective and your purpose. It'll have you reflecting on your purpose. It'll have you reflecting on what you want to do or how you want to live for the rest of your life. And that's the beautiful thing about it. So some of the key points around that is, number 1, global awareness. So understanding how other people live expands your compassion and gratitude. Many times what travel does for me is it makes me appreciate the US even more when you realize how good we truly have it, how blessed we are. Our Uber driver, she had mentioned, we had 2 Uber drivers, a woman and a man, who both mentioned like they would love to go to the United States, and not necessarily to live forever, but just for the overall experience, to be able to just even work and see how they like it. A lot of people still want to migrate over to the US, not all the time, but you'd be surprised. Like in Spain or Portugal, they kind of got it going on over there. So not too many people that you'll find that necessarily want to leave. We ended up finding out that many people, they may leave for a little while and then they end up going right back because they love their home, and they actually have pretty decent economies over there as well. So that's one of the biggest things. Minimalism and appreciation, which is huge. So you begin to realize how little you need to be happy. How little you need to be happy. In the US, everything is about materialism and consumption. And you go abroad and these people, like, I drive an expensive ass vehicle, like super expensive. And the thing about it is, like, you go abroad, these people are good with a bicycle. They're good with a motor scooter, and they don't need very much to be happy. And it's not like my vehicle is making me way happier. and And these people on the other side of the pond literally are able to just be happy with, something as simple as a bicycle. And, it's interesting how in the United States, we have this whole idea of just keeping up with the Joneses, and everybody's comparing themselves to their neighbor and what they drive and all of that. But, you go to different parts of the world, they don't give a shit about that. And that's what I love about it. So it does grow your awareness around ways of living like minimalism. Okay. A reconnection with yourself. So travel can give you the solitude to reflect, heal, and realign with your purpose. And this last trip most certainly did for me. We went to a beautiful town in Portugal right outside of Lisbon called Sintra. Sintra is like the English way of saying it. And absolutely remarkable place. And many great artists over the years and intellectuals have sort of, migrated or went there temporarily for great inspiration. And it's like under the entire town has a castle, this vast castle on a hill that's been around forever. And great empires have come through that, like the Moors, ruled the Iberian Peninsula for about 700 years. So you even have, their influence on it. But it's such a beautiful town, and it definitely just inspired me to go back and do some writing over there, to slow down and spend some quality time in that beautiful region, and the greenery and the beauty behind it. And so amazing. Okay, next up, we have legacy and lifestyle. So seeing the world inspires you to dream bigger, not just for you, but for your family and community. So super, super true. And I know for my wife and I, we were kind of talking about just even traveling abroad more with our kids and having them just see a lot more. And my recommendation is, whether you've got a passport full of stamps or you've been putting off that very first trip, I want to remind you, travel isn't about escaping life. It's about finding it. It's about finding yourself in the process. It's about just going around, experiencing different cultures, different ways of life, and really discovering what you want to do with the rest of your life. Because the reality is we only have this one precious window of time to be able to just do whatever the hell we want with our lives. And you have the right to live your life exactly how you want to live it. And my recommendation is just go out there and travel. Don't get caught up in buying all of this material stuff. Go out, see the world, blow your money in experiences, because you'll never regret it. So travel is an investment in your health, your relationships, and your mindset. And if you're feeling stuck, disconnected, or uninspired, maybe what you need isn't more grind. It's just a getaway. You just got to get out there and see the world. Okay, so looking forward to traveling with many of you. Many of you know that our community, we travel every single year. We pick different destinations and all of that. My kids are actually in the Bahamas right now, living their best life on their summer break. So we travel as a community. So stay tuned for more upcoming trips. I know Colombia has been on the radar for quite some time. So stay tuned for some updates on that possibly. We may be shooting over to the Dominican Republic later on this year as well. We're kind of like weighing out all of our options for this next year. And I know Japan is on the list, the Holy Land, once they get it all together with all this war and stuff like that. But I know many people want to experience the Holy Land for spiritual reasons. So that's also on the radar. Antarctica, doing an expedition out in Antarctica is also at the top of my list, because it is the last continent for me to travel to, the only one that I haven't personally or physically been to. So a lot of trips on the radar, and just excited to travel with you guys over the years. And if you haven't taken a trip, book the damn trip. If you're thinking about it, on whether or not you should do it, just do it. Do it. You will not regret it. And it'll be one of the best things that you can do to enhance your overall life. And I look forward to traveling with many of you guys. So with that being said, before I close out, I typically offer complimentary coaching sessions to our community from time to time. So I'll be sharing that in the comments with you all. You guys can click on my Calendly link for a complimentary coaching session. Looking forward to connecting with a lot of you guys. I know many of you just finished up the 21 Days to Transformation Challenge. Many of you just reset the second half of your year, and it is here, guys. So let's make the rest of this year the best of this year, and I'll be seeing you all next week. Take care. God bless. Breakfast is served.